think if you ask anybody in the league right now, this ain't just me. We talked about in the locker room, we said Joe Burrow was the best quarterback we faced in the National Football League.
Like I said earlier, just a kid from Ohio coming down, chasing a dream.
I told you. Nobody believed me. I told you.
I don't know that anybody can stand on a field and watch Joe Burrow and say he's not the best player in the world.
Like, they've won 8 games. I believe without Joe Burrow, if you put another quarterback in there, given the way their defense has performed this year, there's a chance they would have won 0 games.
This guy captivated a nation and inspired the Bengals to reach new heights that no one could have imagined. From winning the Heisman Trophy to leading the Bengals to the first Super Bowl in over 30 years, this is the story of Joe Burrow, the NFL superstar. Born on December 10, 1996 in Ames, Iowa, Joe Burrow had football in his DNA. His dad, Jim Burrow, was coaching at Iowa State when Joe came into the world. Jim wasn't just any coach. He had a killer football resume. He played college ball at Nebraska, got picked in the first round of the 1976 NFL Draft by the Green Bay Packers, and even played in the Canadian Football League. Eventually, he swapped the cleats for a clipboard and became a coach, landing a gig as the defensive coordinator at Ohio State University. But Joe's athletic roots go even deeper than his dad's. In school, Joe could nail three-pointers like nobody's business. His dad once said Joe could have gone pro in basketball if he'd wanted to. Not surprising given his family's history, his grandma, Dot, once dropped 82 points in a high school game back in the 1940s, and his grandpa, James Burrow, was a star point guard at Mississippi State. Still, football was Joe's true calling. When the family moved to Ohio, he went to Athens High School and absolutely lit up the field. Ohio might not be a football hotspot, but Joe didn't care. He led his team to 3 straight playoff runs, bagged their first 7 playoff wins in school history, and made it look easy. By his junior year, he was crowned Ohio Gatorade Player of the Year and AP All-State. But even with all that, Joe felt like he wasn't getting enough attention. He slid into a football recruiting analyst's Twitter DMs, asking for tips on camps to attend to get noticed. However, it worked. The advice, combined with Joe's talent, set him on the path to becoming one of football's biggest stars. His senior year was like a highlight reel on football. He threw for nearly 4,500 yards and 63 touchdowns, all while only tossing 2 interceptions. That's practically unheard of. Just in case dominating football wasn't enough, he was an all-star point guard on the basketball court too. As a 4-star recruit, he was ranked as the 8th best dual-threat quarterback in the 2015 class. Setting his eyes on football, he committed to Ohio State in 2014, ready to light up the college football scene. But at his start, there were fewer fireworks, and Joe's time in Columbus didn't get off to the fastest. First, he redshirted. Then, for the next 2 seasons, he warmed the bench, tossing just 39 passes. That's barely enough to break a sweat. Realizing his time at Ohio State University wasn't giving him the opportunities he deserved, Joe Burrow's journey took a big turn. Instead of sticking around, Joe made a bold move and hit the reset button, entering the transfer portal as a grad student. Joe didn't go on some grand college tour, visiting dozens of schools like a high school senior. He kept it simple and visited just 2, Cincinnati and LSU. And guess what? LSU won his heart. Why? Because Burrow, with his gritty, no-nonsense attitude and the kind of swagger that screams movie star quarterback, felt like he belonged. Seriously, the guy looks like he was designed in a lab to be the ultimate QB. Cool, calm, and tough. But those first days in Baton Rouge weren't all sunshine and crawfish boils. Burrow holed up in a hotel for 10 days, practically living on room service and deep thoughts. While Joe was busy figuring out how to rebuild his future, his parents and a couple of LSU staff members, Panomsky and Munaz, were in his corner, tackling the mountain of paperwork, housing forms, and transcripts. Imagine compressing 4 months of college prep into just a week and a half. That's stressful for sure, but Burrow didn't flinch. It was just another test for a guy who thrives under pressure. After spending 3 long years stuck in the shadows at Ohio State, Joe was fired up. He had 18 months to prove he could ball, and he was carrying a whole bag of chips on his shoulder. Imagine being on a team, but watching your dreams slip away. one great practice at a time while you were stuck on the sidelines. That was Joe's life at OSU, and he wasn't about to let that happen again. When he got to LSU, Joe wasn't just ready, he was hungry. Even the coaches were stunned by how laser-focused he was. He had a week before his new teammates arrived, and instead of chilling out or exploring campus, Joe called up Tommy Moffitt, LSU's strength and conditioning coach. Joe wanted to know everything: how the team trained, how they walked onto the field, what they wore, and even what music they blasted at practice. I didn't want to look like some clueless freshman, Joe says now. For 5 straight days, Burrow grilled Moffitt with nonstop questions. But Joe didn't just want to pass it. I don't want to just survive the conditioning test, he told Moffitt. I want to win every single run. Tommy Moffitt had seen a lot of ambitious athletes in his time at LSU, but when Joe Burrow said he wanted to win every single run in the team's grueling 26-drill conditioning test, Moffitt couldn't help but chuckle to himself. Not only was Burrow's athleticism middle of the pack compared to the quarterbacks, tight ends, and linebackers, but nobody had ever aced all 26 runs. And then Burrow went out and did the impossible. He won every run. By the time the dust settled, everyone had noticed. Devin White, Patrick Queen, and the rest of LSU's loud and proud linebacker squad were impressed, but also itching to humble the new guy. They didn't mind Burrow's hustle, but they sure weren't going to let him come in from Ohio and take over without a fight. Fast forward to Burrow's first game against Miami, and it's clear LSU's new quarterback wasn't here to play it safe. As the Hurricanes barked at the Tigers during warm-ups, Burrow pushed to the front of the LSU pack, threw up an L on his forehead, and stared down the opposition. By the end of LSU's 33-17 beatdown on the number 8 ranked Hurricanes, Burrow made sure to toss another L toward the Miami fans, just to hammer the point home. The message was clear. The try-hard from Ohio was here to stay. The season overall was solid, nothing flashy, but Burrow proved he was a leader. With 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, he wasn't setting records, but he'd earned the starting job outright. Not that Burrow saw it that way. Even when LSU was dominating Rice late in the season and coaches pulled him after building a 35-3 lead, Burrow paced the sideline like a caged tiger. "Am I still the starting quarterback?" he asked his mentor Munoz, hands on his hips, frustration in his voice. That constant fire, it wasn't just burning, it was fueling something big. That big thing was on full display in LSU's grueling 7-overtime battle against Texas A&M. Burrow threw for 270 yards, ran the ball 29 times for 100 more, and took so many hits he looked like he'd just gone 12 rounds with a heavyweight. In the locker room, he was so wiped out he needed an IV and applesauce packets just to stand up. Panofsky, LSU's go-to guy for football wisdom, summed it up perfectly. If anyone still doubted Joe was the baddest dude in our program, they learned that day. LSU wrapped up the season with a statement win over undefeated UCF in the Fiesta Bowl, finishing 10-3 and riding up into 2019. Burrow's draft grade jumped from undrafted free agent to a likely late-round pick. But LSU's coaching staff knew they had something special. With a receiving corps featuring Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, they decided to unleash Burrow with a more explosive, pass-heavy offense. Even with all that potential, nobody, not the coaches, fans, or players, could have guessed what was coming. Joe Burrow and LSU were about to make history with one of the most jaw-dropping seasons college football had ever seen. However, in June 2019, Joe Burrow packed his bags and headed to California for a crash course in quarterback greatness with the legendary QB guru Jordan Palmer. Palmer had gathered a squad of NFL hopefuls, including Josh Allen and Sam Darnold, who had rented a beach house to train and soak up the California vibes. Burrow got the invite after LSU coach Ed Orgeron ran into Palmer at the NFL draft and had a friendly little smack talk session. Palmer had teased Orgeron about LSU's parade of first-round defensive picks, but pointed out a glaring gap. You won't win a national title until you are sitting in the green room with a quarterback. Orgeron wasn't about to let that slide. "We've got a guy right now who's going to need a green room," he fired back, talking about Burrow. Palmer was intrigued, even though he hadn't seen much of Joe yet, and invited him to the camp. One night, Palmer gathered everyone around a bonfire. No big plays, no passing drills, just a group of players sharing their stories. Palmer had them talk about where they'd been, where they were, and where they wanted to go. His philosophy? If you can confidently tell your story, you are already halfway to becoming the person you are meant to be. It wasn't just about football. It was about dreaming big and then chasing those dreams down. When it was Joe Burrow's turn around the bonfire, he didn't hold back. He shared his story of growing up in Ohio, going to Ohio State, and the frustration of wasting away on the bench. Then he talked about his move to LSU and dropped a bombshell. "I think we're going to be almost impossible to stop." That line hung in the air. Jordan Palmer exchanged a look with Josh Allen, who later quipped, "I hope that guy can throw it," because those were some strong statements. Joe could throw. By day 2 or 3, Burrow wasn't just some new guy trying to fit in. He was one of Palmer's guys. He wasn't cocky, he was confident, and his teammates couldn't help but vibe with his assertiveness. Back at LSU that summer, Joe's dad, Jimmy Burrow, came by to the practice to check things out. Even he was blown away by how sharp his son and the offense looked. Joe couldn't hide his excitement. "Dad, we are really good on defense," he said, "and they can't do anything against us. We are going to have a big year." And indeed, he was right. After a blowout 55-3 win against Georgia Southern to start the season, LSU was feeling good. But next up was a big test. Number 9, Texas, on their turf with a rowdy crowd ready to throw everything at them. Joe Burrow, though, he was ice cold under the pressure, carving up the Texas defense all game long. Fast forward to the fourth quarter. LSU is up 37-31, less than 3 minutes left, and staring at a 3rd and 17. The coaches huddle up. The safe play was to hand it off to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, let him run for a few yards, burn some clock, and punt. But safe isn't LSU style. The coaches argue back and forth before they do the unthinkable. They put the game in Burrow's hands. Ensminger calls 4 vertical routes. Basically, everyone run straight and pray. Orgeron, not usually one to second guess, pulls off his headset and asks Ensminger, "You sure about this?" Ensminger just nods, and then Burrow delivers. Burrow steps up, stays cool, and somehow fires a pass while practically falling over, and goes 61 yards to the end zone. That was game over, and LSU won 45-38, but from that moment, the legend of Joe Burrow began. They didn't just win games, they made history. 7 wins against top 10 teams. Burrow threw for more than 5,000 yards and shattered the NCAA record with 60 touchdown passes. He wasn't just Joe Burrow anymore. He was Joe Brrr, Joe Shiesty, Joe Cool. He had more nicknames than some players have touchdowns. By mid-season, Burrow mania was out of control. Fans were camped out at the team facility like it was Black Friday. LSU's media team had to call in campus police, not 1 but 2 squads, to block off entrances. And Burrow, he couldn't even grab lunch without someone asking for a selfie or an autograph. By the time the college football playoff rolled around, Joe Burrow wasn't just a football player, he was a full-blown superstar. On the field, he was unstoppable. Off the field, he was the definition of cool, rocking sharp suits, puffing cigars, and oozing swagger. And when the lights were brightest, Burrow delivered, leading LSU to a national championship victory over Clemson. And let's not forget the Heisman Trophy. Not only did Burrow win it, but he absolutely destroyed the competition with the largest victory margin in the award's history. In his acceptance speech, Burrow gave a heartfelt shout-out to his hometown of Athens, Ohio. That moment hit so hard that the Athens City School District decided to rename their football field in his honor. Yet Joe Burrow Stadium now stands as a testament to the QB's legacy in his hometown. But college football wasn't big enough to contain Joe Burrow. After conquering the NCAA, it was time for the NFL. In the 2020 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals made Burrow the number 1 overall pick, handing him a hefty 4-year, $36 million contract, plus a sweet $23 million signing bonus. His mission was to turn around a team that hadn't seen success in what felt like forever. Burrow's rookie season showed flashes of brilliance. He was throwing darts, putting up big numbers, and giving Bengals fans hope. But then disaster struck. A devastating knee injury cut his season short, and suddenly the future seemed uncertain. For most players, an injury like that might derail their career. Not Burrow. He attacked rehab like he attacks defenses, focused, relentless, and determined to win. His goal was to be ready for week 1 of the 2021 season, and he actually nailed it. Still, doubters lingered. Could he come back at 100%? Could he actually win at the pro level? Sure, Burrow's rookie stats were solid, but the Bengals still struggled, finishing 2-7-1 in games he started. But if there's one thing we've learned about Joe Burrow, it's this: never count him out. If there were any critics left, Joe Burrow shut them all up with his outstanding 2021 season. Not only did he crush Cincinnati's streak of losing seasons, but he also helped the Bengals get a 10-7 record and an AFC North title. But this wasn't just luck. Burrow went off. In weeks 16 and 17, with everything on the line, Burrow faced the Ravens and Chiefs like a man on a mission. His response was a ridiculous 971 yards and 8 touchdowns in just 2 games. After securing a playoff spot, Burrow took a well-deserved rest in Week 18. By the end of the regular season, he had rewritten the Bengals' record books, throwing for 4,611 yards and 34 touchdowns. He wasn't just throwing a lot, he was deadly accurate. He led the NFL in completion percentage at 70.4% and yards per pass attempt at 8.9. When the playoffs rolled around, Burrow wasn't done making history. First, he led the Bengals to a 26-19 win over the Raiders in the wild card round. Then came a nail-biting road victory against the top-seeded Titans, 19-16. Every game was proof that Burrow wasn't just good, he was clutch. But the real show came in the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs. Everyone thought the Bengals were toast when they fell behind 21-3 in the first half. But here's the thing about Joe Burrow. He loves a good comeback. Step by step, throw by throw, he brought the Bengals back into the game. And in overtime, Burrow delivered, leading Cincinnati to a stunning 27-24 victory. Just like that, the Bengals were headed to their first Super Bowl in over 30 years. At just 25, Joe Burrow made NFL history as one of only 13 quarterbacks that young to start in a Super Bowl. And get this, he was only in his second season. While the Bengals didn't bring home the Lombardi Trophy, falling just short against the Rams, they fought till the final whistle. That's the magic of Joe Burrow. He inspires teams to go down swinging. If Burrow's story so far tells us anything, it's this: he's not done. The Super Bowl spotlight isn't a one-time thing for Joe Cool. And if you are still doubting him, perfect. That's just how he likes it. But you can never take one thing from him. Beyond the field, this man has become a style icon. He's so fashionable that the New York Times named him one of the most stylish people in the world. And let's be real, Joe doesn't just dress to impress. He dresses to dominate. Take week 2 of the 2022 season against the Cowboys. Burrow strutted in wearing a checkered suit jacket, maroon pants, matching Nike shoes, and Cartier sunglasses. The man looked like a quarterback and a Fashion Week model. Fast forward to week 13 against the Chiefs, Burrow rocked a maroon suit that had fans wondering if he was secretly promoting Taylor Swift's Midnights album. By week 18, he upped the game yet again with a white sweater, a top coat, and those signature Cartier shades. Fans didn't just call him Joe Cool, they meant it. Over the summer, Burrow stepped onto a very different kind of stage at Vogue's 2024 Paris Fashion Week. Joe Cool entered the runway in a suit with an open back. And his bold style didn't stop there. On December 9, 2024, before a game against the Cowboys, Burrow arrived at AT&T Stadium, rocking a Marnie black shirt and pants with multicolored stripes from head to toe. It was another reminder that this guy doesn't just play primetime games, he owns primetime moments. As cool as Burrow looks, his bank account might be even cooler. In September 2023, he signed a massive 5-year, $275 million extension with the Bengals, making him the highest paid NFL player. That's $55 million a year, with $219 million guaranteed and a $40 million signing bonus. But Burrow refuses to touch his salary money. "I don't plan on spending any contract money," he told reporters. "I'm just going to live off the marketing money." With endorsements from Nike, Bose, Nerf, and Fanatics, Burrow's bank account is stacking up faster than his passing stats. Joe's marketability is next level. Want a football with his autograph? That'll cost you $400. A signed jersey from his LSU or Bengals days? Make it $600. And Nike even released a special shirt personalized with Burrow's 740 area code, a nod to his hometown. Fans loved it so much that Nike put it on store shelves a month later. Despite offers pouring in from all directions, Burrow only partners with brands he truly believes in. Joe Burrow isn't just a football star, he's a hero for people in need. Back in 2019, when he won the Heisman Trophy, Burrow used his acceptance speech to shine a spotlight on something bigger than football. Instead of bragging about touchdowns, he talked about people in his hometown who were struggling with poverty and food insecurity. That speech wasn't just heartfelt, it was the start of something incredible. Inspired by that moment, Burrow and his parents created the Joe Burrow Foundation, teaming up with business and community leaders from Ohio and Louisiana. This foundation is all about helping kids who are struggling, whether it's with mental health challenges or not having enough to eat. They provide resources, support, and hope for those who need it most. But the foundation doesn't stop at just helping. It aims to inspire. The goal is to give kids the same passion, drive, and creativity that Burrow shows every Sunday on the football field. Whether he's throwing touchdown passes or helping kids in need, Joe Burrow proves that being a champion is about more than trophies. It's about making a difference. And just like on the field, he's making every play count. So to understand how crazy NFL plays are made, check the next video on the screen. You will never believe those crazy plays exist.